Okay, once again, good evening to everyone, and also if you guys are not from India, then good morning to you. So basically, let me just tell you what exactly we are trying to do here. So this is a regular DevOps course that we are trying to conduct through online. And to get started with, in today's session, I'll be talking for the first 30 to 40 minutes on an introduction to DevOps in a brief way. So in that, we will try to understand what exactly is DevOps, why companies are moving towards DevOps, and in that, what is that we have to do in order to move towards DevOps, and then what are the things that we have to learn in moving towards DevOps, and ultimately, what is the career opportunities in DevOps and why it is so benefited for any particular person who is working in IT to move towards DevOps. So that's what we're going to cover about the what, why, and how of DevOps in the first 30, 40 minutes. And once that is done, we'll be moving on towards what and all we'll be doing as part of this course, the curriculum and the tools overview. And then in the next remaining probably 30 to 40 minutes, I'll walk you through the introduction of the very first module called Software Configuration Management or Version Controlling System. So that's what I'm going to do. And then later on, let's see how much we can cover it today. And then tomorrow, we'll go ahead with the introduction of Git, and we'll try to understand the essentials and the fundamental architecture of Git. And then the third day, we'll go ahead into the hands-on with Git. And then we'll be proceeding with the other tools one by one as we go through. So that's the major agenda for what we are going to do. So as I said, let's start with it. So to even before we get into it. So basically, I do a lot of sessions, which will be more of interactive way where we discuss. But since for the first 3 days, we are trying to keep it as an open forum, and we'll have a lot of people joining in, it'll be difficult for me to keep answering every questions right away. The problem about that is we are focused more about giving it inequality. So if you have any questions, feel free to ping me, or pretty much at the end of the session, we'll have an open forum where whatever questions that you have, we can discuss, or pretty much you can contact us later so that I'll be addressing. But as I said in the beginning, I'll focus in such a way that you won't get any kind of questions, or whatever the questions that you might get, I'll be answering each and everything in one by one way. All right. So that's a major plan that I'll be doing. So don't think that this will be a one-way class where I'll be just talking. No, since people are more, I'm focusing more to keep it on a mute way where the recordings will be clear and you can go ahead and refer to it whenever you want later. So that's a major focus. All right. So what exactly is this DevOps? We might be hearing it a lot from around close to 2 years in India, but this pretty much has been evolved a lot in US and UK. UK is kind of emerging, but the tools has been already there in the market. But in India, if you see, focus was from the last 2 years where we have been moving, and pretty much from the last 1.5 years, you hear this a lot. So what exactly is this? Now, before jumping into what is DevOps and why, let's first understand how is the market that we have in IT. So if you look, we know that there's a lot of market evolution and there's a lot of technology changes that is happening. And because of which, each and every organization or a company who are trying to do some kind of service, wherein they are trying to either release a product which has been created by them, or they are doing some kind of maintenance of a release for a different company or a client, or they are trying to take care of a service where the product is being given and we are trying to use it. An example could be something like Flipkart or Google or Amazon. So regardless of whatever the kind of organization they are into or whatever their services are, what is that primarily as an organization they are looking at to survive in the business? Because just like how we think what is our career from an organization or a company, they have to sustain in a market and they have to ensure, because of all the competition is there, how is that they are going to still come up in their business, make the revenue. So only then we will be benefited internally. So that way, from an organization focus, how is that they are going to run the business? So the major requirement, if you look from an organization from that perspective, is the first thing is how is that they are going to do the delivery of whatever services they are doing to their customers or the end users as soon as possible. Because we know that the market evolution is so high as well as the competition is quite high. So regardless of whatever service that you're giving as a company, you have to make sure that you deliver it as soon as possible, because the later you do it, then there are a lot of problems because of our competitors jumping into it. So that is when it is not about what are the good things that you're bringing in, but how soon are you bringing it to the market is the important thing. So from an organization, one of the topmost requirement that they have is faster delivery of their services. The next thing is quality. Now, whatever that they are trying to deliver, they have to deliver it quickly, right? They might have to do it, half the time what they were doing earlier, but it doesn't mean that the quality of the tasks what they are trying to deliver to the customer has to be less, because at the end of the day, if the quality of the services or the product which the end users are going to use, if it is not up to the expectation, then our services or our business as an organization cannot sustain for a longer time. So that is when, along with faster delivery, they have to focus on keeping the quality of the services and the products, whatever they are delivering, has to be at a higher range. Then, is that enough? No. Because from a company now, at the end of whatever the service has been given, the most important factor that comes is how much is the expenditure that they have done to achieve the service, and out of it, what is the benefit they have given. So now, because of the market competition, if you are focusing on keeping a lower price of your service, then if the cost of manufacturing or the production or the maintenance, whatever you have done to ensure the faster delivery and quality, if it is quite higher, then the revenue, whatever the company has to going to do, will be quite less. And as the revenue keeps going down, they will have to be forced to be out of the market. So that is when one of the major problems for recession that happens is they are trying to reduce the cost wherever it is possible. So that's one of the important area where, even though they have a quality product and trying to give the delivery of the product very soon in the market, if the cost of the production and maintenance of their service is not kept lower, then it is going to be a problem for the organization or the company. So that is when companies are majorly focusing on this area, on how is that they can reduce the cost whatever that they have been put in order to get the service done. So that's another major factor that is driving an organization's need. And finally, since we are talking a lot about e-commerce related products and organizations are focusing towards these e-commerce way, now the services that is being used by the end users is almost continuously happening, right? So if you take about LinkedIn, Facebook, or talk about the shopping things like Amazon, Flipkart, now customers as we or users are trying to use it always. So that is when, if there is a delay in getting up things from their end, then they are going to lose the customers. So that is when whatever the upgrades or the problems or the system maintenance that they are going to do internally has to be ensured in such a way that it doesn't impact the end users or the services. So that is when outages, which refers to maintenance or upgrade of any services or machine or application, has to be done in a non-disruptive way as much as possible, so that the services run smoothly without any problem and the end users or the customers doesn't have any impact in accessing your services. So that's the major important factors that as an organization that they are going to focus on. So now when an organization is thinking about these way, how is that they can achieve? So basically, whatever that they have to do has to be focused within the organization. As an engineers, what is that we are doing? So we have to do it in a better way. So that is what the next step that organization has to look. So now as an organization, if you look, whatever services that we are trying to give to our customer has to be worked by two set of engineers. The first set of engineers, what we call them as the development group, and the other set of engineers will be part of a group called as non-development group, or the operations or the administration group. Now again, this classification can be further classified into smaller and smaller engineers, but from the organization, if you look, there could be only two major groups. One is the development, the other one is the non-development group. So who will be part of the development group? So pretty much anyone who will be responsible in doing some kind of release or maintenance will be part of this release group. And who and all will be part of this in terms of engineers? So you will have the developers or programmers, QA engineers or test engineers, you will have documentation engineers, program managers, build engineers, release managers, and you will also have anyone who is interacting with the customer also for working towards the release. So that way, all those people will be part of the development group. And the non-development group, people who will be focusing on maintaining a machine or an application which is available in the data center or in your lab for the organization, will be part of that. So in that way, engineers like system administrators, network administrators, database administrators, web administrators, or pretty much anyone who will be directly taking care of a machine or taking care of some kind of application or a service in your organization, which will be used by different people to do the service, will be part of the non-development group or the operations group. So in order for the company to do some changes or to do the things better in order to achieve these factors, they need to first know what is the problem that these guys are facing from these groups individually, right? So we have a development group and we have a operations group who are currently working, and they are focusing on many things like improving their day-to-day task and automation, but still they are not able to achieve all those things. So primarily for an organization, the focus now starts on trying to find out individually on what these people are doing and what are the problems majorly that these are facing. So that's when organization digs in deeper. So that way, if you look on the development side or the development group, there will be a particular software development lifecycle which they will be following. Now, what exactly do they do? So there will be a bunch of developers who will be working on some code changes, and once it is done, they have to give it to the testers or the QA team to verify. But what happens is we have so many developers and so many changes, and each one of them will be doing their changes in their own respective time. So because of which, it will not be sufficient where we can ask a QA person to keep testing each and every developer's change individually. So that is when what we have to do is we have to put in a lot of waiting period where we will ask all the engineers to complete their work, that is the developers, accumulate the change or integrate the change and then give it to the QA as a product to test it. So that is when there is a lot of waiting period involved in the development side and in the QA side in integrating all the changes. And let's say at some point of a time, you integrate all this change and create a product. And then when it is moved to the testing, there are a lot of possibilities where one particular developer's change is causing a problem because it is not compatible as a product. Because it is not just one developer who's doing a change, there will be many developers who are doing the change. So that is when we will be capturing the problem that one guy's change is not working at the end of the time when we are doing testing. Once again, we will have to put in a lot of effort in trying to find out who exactly caused the problem and what and all of the other issues because of it, and then we will assign it to the developer. So once again, there's a lot of time that has been put here in debugging and triaging and particularly sending back the problem to the right developer. So like this cycle keeps going on until you capture all the problems, because you are trying to capture problems one by one. So that is how, if there are any other issues, to capture all those things, it is going to take a lot of cycles in the development. And is it the only thing? No. As I was talking about a lot of competition in the market, as an organization, if you focus, they will be interested to do many releases. Many releases means they would like to give different products at the same point of time, or for the same product, different architecture release that they want to do. So that is when, how is that they're going to handle all those things? So definitely the amount of time that the development group is going to put will be quite higher. So that is when, from an organization, if you look, the major problems what this development group are going to face is they'll be having some kind of software development lifecycle in which they'll be following some branching methodology for doing the development. So that is when for each release that they have to work, there will be many branches, and integrating the branches, merging them, and then doing a release, all those things is going to take a lot and lot of time. And as I said, we are going to spend a lot of time in integration and waiting. And then since you are going to do a lot of duplication work, in terms of integration, the time is again spent there. And as I said, as the number of developers keep growing in doing the development, the time that you take to debug the number of problems will also be higher, because it is not just one developer who will be working on a product. Think that your product is a complete operating system. There will be hundreds of developers working on it. So the number of time that you're going to take to debug an issue will also be quite higher. And to debug and find out a problem, it is going to take a lot of time. So that's when your complete system is prone to errors. When I say prone to errors, it means that there are a lot of bugs that it will be introduced, because each developer will be doing his verification on his side. And when you are integrating everything together without a proper system, there's going to be a lot of problems. That is one side. On the other side, if you focus on the operations group or the administration group, what and all that they will be doing on a regular basis. So if you take an engineer, he will be responsible in taking care of a machine or an application in it. And in that, his task is primarily to make sure that the machine is up and running or the application is up and running. But it is not just that, because along with the machine or application, he has to do certain other maintenance tasks. Because as a system administrator, you will have to ensure that the operating system upgrades are always available, or whatever the libraries that is needed for your architecture or for your application that you need to run, you have to take care. Now, as a application manager or an administrator, to take care of that particular application, you have to do frequent maintenance in terms of backups. You have to ensure that whatever dependencies of that application is there should be there. And if a user has to access, what and all accounts that you have to create in it, giving them proper privileges and permissions. So like this, there will be lots and lots of maintenance activity that we have to do. Now, all these things are not the same on all the machines that we have, because in our lab, if I have 100 machines or if I have 10 applications, not everything will be the same. So that is when each machine will be different in terms of the architecture and the application that you're going to run. So that is how the amount of the maintenance task what we have to take care from the operations group or the administration group will be quite huge. And is it the only thing? No, because at the end of the day, if the machine is just running or the application is running, is not just sufficient for us, because if a user has to connect to it and if it doesn't work, then there will be a problem. So that is when it is also equally important for the operations group or the administration group to take care of the health of the machine or the application, whatever they are looking at. Okay, so that's when they have to do this for all the machines and the application which is under their control. So that way, from an organization, what is that the major problem that they are facing towards the operations group? That is high availability. So high availability means at any point of time, any user should be able to connect to whatever machine that he is in need, and at the same time, whatever application or the service that he wants to run on that should be available. So that is the primary requirement from an organization. Second thing is effective maintenance. Because now, if you keep putting too many people to maintain different machines, then again it is going to be a problem. And top of that, on a single machine, you will be having many applications or services. How is that you're going to take care? So that is another major problem on how is that you can ensure operational excellence, which is the most important thing. And then reducing the downtime. As we know that being in IT, it is inevitable where when we have a problem, how is that you're going to fix is one, but at the same time, we cannot say that you might not have a problem, right? Now, let's say you are trying to install some application, a simple one. Let me say that you are trying to set up a web server. When you try to set up a web server, what will happen? It is not always that everything will be fine. Suddenly something goes wrong. Whatever the libraries that is needed will not happen. So that is when, from an organization, whatever problems that you're trying to fix or whatever the upgrades that you're going to do or maintenance that you're going to do has to be done so that it is not going to be a disruptive service to the customers or to the internal stakeholders, whoever is going to access. So that is when, as an organization, now if you see, they have to make sure that any person as an engineer who is working, he should be able to do his day-to-day activity without a problem. For him, whatever machine that he needs and the services that he needs should be there. And in order to take care of that, a person should not be put too much of effort into it, right? As well as you're not going to put too much of cost in the maintenance, because if you use all the licensed softwares, again, that you're going to put too much of cost in the maintenance. So that is when they have to ensure operational excellence. When I say operational excellence, it means that you are going to take care not only of the operations in maintenance, but you are also going to take care of the future planning, ensuring that any kind of problems that you're fixing will be based on a non-disruptive way so that it doesn't impact the service, as well as the cost of the maintenance also has to be kept in mind and it has to be brought down. So doing all these things together is what we call it as operational excellence, because as an organization, they are not just going to think about from the engineer's way, but they are going to focus more from the way that they have to do the business. So that is when, given a release, how is that they can do it quickly? For that, whatever machines that they need, how is that they are going to ensure that everything is available and up and running? So that's the major requirement through which they should be able to focus on the 4 important factors that is needed for their business. So what is that they have to do? Now, organizations, if you look, already we're trying to do something called as automation, where automation is simply all about whatever that we were doing it manually, they are trying to do it automatically without much help of the manually or the user. So that is how they were trying to reduce the total amount of time that you're going to put into it, and at the same time, not too much of cost needed in terms of resource maintenance. But as the business is growing, as the technology is growing, we have lots and lots of tasks to be done. So that is when automation also has to go to the next level, where they don't have to just focus only on the automation, but also on the cost and the maintenance of it. Because if you say that you are going to do some automation and you are going to reduce some time, a company is not happy, because internally, if you are going to say that by doing it, the company has to spend too much of money into it, then again, it is not a big benefit. So from a company, you have to bring up solutions which you can help the automation to be done in a better way, a faster way, that is efficient, as well as keeping the cost, whatever you're going to do for maintaining that, should be lesser. So that is when one such solution that came up into the industry is what we call it as DevOps. So what exactly is DevOps, or what exactly is the solution that the organization are trying to implement? So DevOps simply is going to act as a bridge between these two groups, that is the development group and the operations group. So as a company now, if you focus, they don't want people to work in silos. That is, they want to focus only on their problem. No, they want to focus as an organization's requirement, where this DevOps, which is a culture which tries to bring a bridge between this development group and the operations group. And in that, these groups are going to work collaboratively as a single group, in which you are going to do automation as much as possible to achieve all the organization need. And in that, you're going to communicate and pretty much collaborate in such a way that if there is a problem that is going to occur in one area, you are also going to solve the problem from the other area. So that is when a DevOps is simply a culture which the organization is trying to bring, where both the development and the operations requirement will be put together, and the culture will be focusing on both of the requirements as a one single group. So that such culture wherein the organization drives towards their basic factors of requirement is what we call it as DevOps. So this way, DevOps is not related to one area. because you might see people will think that, okay, DevOps means you are going to focus only on the infrastructure. Let me bring some tool on the infrastructure. Or some will say that, hey, DevOps is only on doing the release automation. It will talk only to the development. No. As the name says, it is a combination of both development and operations together, where it is the culture which the organization wants us to focus on both the problems that is needed for the development group to release, and for that, whatever is the infrastructure, that is the system requirement or the IT requirement, you're going to take care of that. So that kind of culture, where we come out of our mindset where instead of just working on only one area, we have to start focusing on both the sides. So that is when, if you have to move towards a develop culture, or if an organization wants us to move towards develop culture, we will not be just focusing on only the development side. If I'm a developer or a QA person, I have to step out of my day-to-day roles, wherein I'm not going to step out completely, but along with what I'm doing, I should also focus on what are the system requirements for me to do this development or testing requirement. The same way, if you're focusing on the operation side where you'll be taking care of the infrastructure, you have to come out of it, and along with what you are doing, your mindset should be prepared where along with the system requirement, you will also do some automation which will help the developer or the QA or someone who is part of the release management to take care of the releases to do it better cycle. So such a kind of culture, what an organization uses to overcome the problems and achieve their primary goal, that is faster delivery, higher quality, lesser cost that is being put into the maintenance, and effective maintenance of the outages, is what we call it as a DevOps. Okay, I repeat it. DevOps is nothing related to a particular tool or a particular area. It is a culture which the organization is trying to drive to overcome their problems and get them to be running in the business. Okay, so that's first thing that you need to understand. And as part of the DevOps, what is that organization wants us to do? The organization is going to focus on both the sides, that is the development related problems, as well as for that, whatever is the operation or the system requirements, that is also going to be taken care. So what is that we are going to do now? As a company, I said they are going to move towards a DevOps culture where they're going to put a solution for combining or putting a bridge between these two groups, that is development and the operations, and working collaboratively. So that way, if you see DevOps, it is all about trying to implement industry's best standards, following certain modern software methodologies, and using open source tools through which they can automate everything and make sure the maintenance is done easily, and at the same time ensure the cost that has been put into it is quite lesser. So the first thing that what an organization is going to focus by coming towards the DevOps culture is moving in an agile way. So that is when whatever the kind of development that they are going to do, the first thing that the DevOps culture talks about is, if your organization is trying to do things in a better way, first thing is move this complete software development into the agile methodology of working. So in the agile methodology of working, we have a lot of ways that you will be achieving it. So in that, a simpler definition would be is that agile tries to divide your day-to-day work into smaller and smaller tasks, and it goes through some kind of cycle where in that cycle all the respective engineers will be working in that development group, will be working together. So that is when, as soon as a change has been done by the developer, immediately it will be integrated with others changes, and immediately it will be tested, and immediately you will be creating a product. So that is how you can ensure that if there is any problem, you're going to detect at the earliest, and also the time that has been put in waiting and debugging, everything will be reduced. So ensuring there is a directly proportional to the productivity. So that is how, by adopting the agile methodology and the way of implementing modern processes and the methodologies, DevOps is going to ensure that the productivity of the release cycle or the engineers in the development group will be higher. And At the same time, they can always focus on the parallel releases. So that's an since the release cycles are going to be reduced by doing automation as much as possible, you will have lot of times to focus on parallel release. So happily, as an organization, we can focus on many customers need and do the releases on time so that our customers will be happy and we continue to be in the business being into the competitive world. Okay, now how is that they are going to do? So that is when, if you are focusing only on the development side, then there are different ways how we can implement the agile. So some of the examples on how a agile way of software development can be done is using Scrum or Kanban or lean development, or sometimes if you see, if it is a testing related organization, or if it is a testing related business unit on which your development is driving, then they will be using certain test driven development. So that's when people would be using, that is the development group will be using any one among this agile methodology of working, where they will be having certain kinds of stand-up meeting or scrum meeting or a dashboard meeting, where they will be splitting the tasks into smaller and smaller ways, and they will be trying to capture and trying to go through certain cycles, or in terms of the scrum meeting, that you will be calling it as a cycle where you will be focusing it to finish it as soon as possible. So that's when the focus is the agile way. You will be using any one of this as the development method. Now, okay, the method is for the development, but still, what is the process that you're going to follow where both the development and the testing and someone who's part of the release has to work? So that is when, from the DevOps, there are different best practices that we have to follow so that the productivity will be high, the time that you're going to utilize will be lesser, and the quality of the product will be quite high. So among that, few things are continuous integration, which is one of the things that you could hear a lot that is happening, where through the process called continuous integration, we will ensure that as soon as the developer does the change, immediately we will let him know if there is any problem, or if it is completely okay, we are going to go ahead with the complete testing and verify everything is okay or not. So that's what we are going to follow. Then we will follow some process called nightly builds, where we will be giving whatever the developers have created or done the change to the QA to do the actual functional testing. And further, you can do things about automated unit testing or functional testing, or even you can think about how can you do a continuous deployment. So if you focus on the e-commerce side, let me take an example of Flipkart or Amazon. They just say that, hey, there's going to be some $1 million sale that is happening at some point of day. Now for that, internally they have to do some changes, right? So the developer, whoever is going to change, now it has to be tested and immediately it has to be put into the production so that we as the end users access. They are not going to say that, okay, we are doing a development, so our site will be down for one day, so wait, we will be uploading all the new products and images. No, whatever the development does, immediately it has to be integrated with the product and it has to be delivered. So such a kind of process where the DevOps focuses on faster delivery is what we call it as continuous deployment. Okay, so by implementing and adopting these practices, the release cycles would be completely reduced and the quality of the product would be quite higher. So what I was talking about is only on the release, but as a DevOps culture, we are not focusing only on the release, but we are also going to focus equally and more than that on the operation side or on the system administration. So that is when, from the DevOps side, we are going to do a infrastructure management as better as we can do. So in that, the first focus what we have to do is replace all our physical machines. Because now, as we keep having newer and newer requirement, if you keep procuring new and new machines, what will happen? As an organization, they have to pay too much of cost in the maintenance. And in also for procuring, they have to put in too much of cost. So that is when focus is completely towards the virtualization, where we have to focus on how is that we can create the machines virtually, and in that, how can you leverage all the services so that whenever a user wants a machine, rather than spending too much of cost and time in procuring and maintaining, we will use these machines. So in that, if you look as an administrator, still we have lot of softwares or tools that we call it as hypervisors. For example, we have things like VMware, or pretty much we also have certain more things like Oracle's virtual machine, or pretty much HyperX or anything like that similar. But if you look, by having VMware or any of these machines, you can create virtual machines whenever you need. But the maintenance effort for this is going to be quite higher. And at the same time, the resource utilization will be quite higher. What do I mean by that is, if you install, let's say, VMware on one machine, then you cannot directly start using it, because that VMware itself will utilize all the resources that you have on your machine. So if you want to now create many machines virtually on it, then you should have a very good space in it, very good RAM in terms of your server, CPU, everything has to be kept on updating as we keep using more and more. So that is when you are going to put in too much of cost and maintenance. So that's when, from the DevOps side, the focus is to do a effective infrastructure management by using latest methodology called as containers, where containers acts as a OS virtualization, or it is a OS virtualization where it does something similar to virtualization, but it is going to be having lot of advantages when compared to the normal virtualization. So containers is quite lightweight, and you can do it at any point of time instantly, and there is no problem from the maintenance, and cost wise it is quite very, very effective. So that is when, on your own laptop, if you want, you can create 10 to 15 containers as long as you have enough resources in it. So that is how you don't have to spend too much of time, as well as the maintenance, as well as the cost in terms of resources. So one area that majorly that we will be focusing is how is that we can leverage these container concept, which will be helpful for the developers or to the QA or pretty much any user within the organization who's trying to do his day-to-day activity. So whenever he needs a machine or an environment, you can use. At the same time, if he wants to do a testing like performance testing, for which he needs 10 machines instantly, which will be exactly the same configuration, rather than we spending time in creating everything, you're going to use this container through which you can replicate the environment also easily. So that's one of the major area where the process can be improved in terms of the time and maintenance using containers. Then there's one more area called cloud. What exactly is cloud? So we'll talk deeper about what is cloud in the later sessions. But for now, just think this much, that if I have a machine in my data center or in my lab physically in the company, then I have to take care of the maintenance. I have to take care of the power supply for that. And let's say suddenly our business is growing, then I want to add 100 machines. Now, for procuring machines or to create some machines virtually, maintain it, everything is going to take a lot of time. Then let's say suddenly that 100 machines you have utilized, and then you feel that you want another couple of machines, then once again you have to set up some strategy to analyze that your business is going to grow, and based on that you have to spend time and maintain it. That is one area wherein you need to do something called a scale up. Scale up means you should ensure that whenever you need more machines for your business, you should be able to provide it. And the same thing is on reverse. That is what we call it as elasticity. So the reverse is, let's say suddenly you have completed your work and you don't need this 100 machines anymore, out of which only 20 machines or 30 machines is needed for the maintenance. So what is that you're going to do with the remaining 70 or 80 machines that we had? So unnecessarily we are going to pay for it in terms of maintenance, in terms of power. So that is when, from a company, they need to take care of the infrastructure effectively, and whenever they want, they can add more machines or remove machines. So, and all these things should be happening at a lesser cost. So that's when cloud comes into the picture, where cloud is nothing but you can consider it as a machine which is available on the internet. So who is providing? There are some service providers who give us the machines virtually through the cloud or through the internet. What is the advantage? So the advantage here is, first, we are not having the machines in our lab. So we don't have to worry about maintenance. So that If I need a machine, we will go to the internet service provider, that is the cloud service provider on the internet, and I'll say, hey, I need 100 machines. Now, without wasting much of the time, these service providers will give us the machines instantly. So that is when you're not spending too much of time in creating a machine. Now, let's say you are using this machine. And as I said, after some time, you feel that you need only 30 machines. So all you have to do is give him back and say that, hey, I'm going to use only 30 machines. So that way, now you are going to continue paying only for 30 machines and not for the remaining machines. So that way, your maintenance is also effective and it is cost effective because you're not paying for everything. And top of that, if the machines is there in your lab, let's say that there is a power outage, there is some problem in the network, what will happen? It is going to affect your complete company. But if the same thing is being taken care by the cloud service provider on the internet, it is his responsibility to take care of anything. And on top of that, it is not going to happen, but if it happens, they will already have a backup plan for that so that our services will run without any problem. So that is how we don't have to take care about the complete infrastructure or maintenance, and we can get as many machines and configurations on it whenever we need, and whenever we don't want, we are going to give it back, so that we are going to pay only for what we are going to use, and anytime that we need, we can add more machines or remove those machines from our requirement. So that's the advantage on moving to the cloud. The next thing, is it the only thing on the infrastructure side? No. Okay, just a question. So which technologies do cloud provides internally, and how are they going to maintain physical service? So like I said, I'll be talking more about the cloud in deep. But for now, what is that you have to focus is, we are not literally worried as a company on what is that they are using, because it is the responsibility of the service provider in the cloud to give us all those machines, because we are going to pay him only for the machines that I need. So ideally, it is the responsibility of the provider to take care of it. So that is how one of the most popular things, what you call it as Amazon Web Services, which is provided by the Amazon.com. Now, they have lots and lots of data centers and labs, which they are taking care, using which we are going to take our service. Now, think about having a huge data centers with thousands of machines, which is going to act as a backup for our single machine that I need. So that is the power where I am completely going to be happy, where I don't have to worry about the maintenance, as well as I don't have to worry about how the Amazon or AWS is trying to create the machine. It is up to them to take care of the business. But from my end user or a customer or as a company, if you look, I am happy because I need a machine, I am getting it from them. Whereas how they are maintaining it is up to them. But the advantage here is, if there is a problem, we have features in the cloud where we can easily do a backup, and we can always have something in a redundant way which will act as a failover mechanism. So that is when, even when the machine that we are using, if there is a power outage or if there is a problem, we will always have a failover node or a backup machine available for that, on which our services will be transferred. So that is how our services will run uninterruptedly, and whatever the problems that is going to be faced will be taken care by the service provider, and it is very well maintained where we will not face any problems. That is the advantage. It doesn't mean that whatever the problem comes, they will take care, but still, if the problem is going to happen, our services will be impacted. So that is when they have such a kind of network and the maintenance of their data center where they have lots of backups and failovers. So if there is any problem that is going to happen, they will try to fix it. And again, we don't have to worry about anything. All we have to do is continue using our machines only for the time that I need. So that's the major advantage why companies are moving towards cloud, where they don't have to take care of the maintenance, and they don't have to take care of a huge space for putting these machines and hiring many people for taking care of that. So that way the cost is very much reduced and maintenance is effective, and whenever they want to scale up their business, they can easily scale up, or whenever they want to remove the machines, they can remove it. That's the major advantage on moving towards cloud. Then the next thing what we have is configuration management. So why is it configuration management important as part of the infrastructure management in DevOps? Now, Let's say that you are an engineer, you are trying to create a machine virtually or container or a machine on cloud. Okay, so you are fulfilling only one requirement, that you are trying to create a machine. But as the end user, when someone wants to log into this machine, what is that he needs? He needs a particular application or a service running in it, right? For example, if you're a developer, let's say you want to do some Java coding and you need Java in that. Now, a test engineer comes and he says that, hey, I need to do some automation testing. I need some tool called Selenium. And then there will be a build engineer or a release manager who comes and says that, hey, I want to do some kind of management activity, so I need some tool like Jira install into it. So that is when on the same machine there will be many users who are going to work. How is that you are going to configure all the requirements? And you have to ensure that whenever anyone comes and works on that machine, the application should be running as well as the configuration should be there. So that is when the number of machines are going to increase, the activity and the effort is also going to be increased. So that is when one of the concept called configuration management, through which in the DevOps, we will ensure no matter how many machines you have, we are going to automate the process of configuring all the machines, so that at any point any users goes to that machine, he will be having the state of the machine exactly as he needs. So when I say the state means for a developer, whatever he needs, that is the state. For a QA, whatever he needs, the software, the files, the services, anything that he wants in that machine would be available. And we are going to make sure to automate that no matter how many machines that we have, whether it could be a virtual machine or it could be a machine on cloud, we are going to maintain it through configuration management. And it's not just that. Finally, coming to that, in the DevOps, we are also going to focus on keeping an eye on this application and the machine, so that if there is any bottleneck that is going to happen, a bottleneck in the sense, if there is any issue that we are seeing it, we have to proactively try to fix it and provide a solution so that it doesn't cause a big impact to our productivity. So that's why as a DevOps culture, we will also focus on monitoring all the machines as well as the services that we are going to run.